Oh, well, hello there. Welcome to another quarantine art class with your host, Anthony Carter. I'm in the middle of taping down a piece of paper that I outlined with a box, a recycled box that I found laying around. I just put it down on my paper, took a little marker and outlined it. So when I draw inside of this area, I can cut it out, put it in my box, and hang it on the wall, use it as a little shadow box. In fact, I used the lids for these two boxes, glued them together in the middle with the little foam insert that came with it. So now it has a nice little seal, helped the glue stick extra nice to the boxes. And now I have this nice little frame, little shadow box that I can put a piece of art on either side, and I can have a hook, just allow it to hang. And I can make a nice, easy little frame this way to hang on the wall. So I want to draw something to fit inside of this area. Let me get this box out the way. Oh, before we get into this, I wanted to kind of show you how we ended up last week. We did a whole number of effects with spice painting. We made paint with spices. We made paint with makeup, and with a whole number of household items laying around. And we ended up and used a lot of glue. Glue paint is kind of what I've been on recently, and food coloring as well. So you see here many different layers. This page is actually very heavy. There's a lot of different layers of glue and paint that I built up in order to create this work of art. And you can see I kind of went crazy, had a good time doing it, experimenting, trying new things. So just see what kind of colorful items you have laying around. Hopefully you have access to them, that they are yours. If not, you can go to the 99-cent store and pick those up. Just going over some of the previous things that we did together. This was another glue food coloring work of art that we did. And we're about to get into something new. Today, I know we're all kind of stuck at home. You're wondering, how to be creative, what things to try. And we've been drawing the face a lot. So now it's time to kick it up a notch. And we're going to draw our friends. How are we going to do that when we're stuck at home? Well, luckily we have our phones or computer. And if you have a friend that you can FaceTime, you can call them up and you can draw them on a Zoom portrait or FaceTime. So I'm going to call my friend, Ilana, and we're going to have some fun together. I'm going to draw her today, and hopefully she picks up. Oh, there she is. Say hi to Ilana, everybody. Ilana, say hi.
Hi, everybody.
All right. So today we're going to draw our friends on the phone. All right. So we're going to set her up here so that we can see her real nice. And she's going to be our model for today. All right. So if you're just bored at home, wondering what to draw next, and you need a little inspiration, well, you can call a friend. So today, I'm going to draw Ilana using some charcoal. Now, charcoal is basically sticks that have been burnt. So if you don't have charcoal and you have like I don't know, maybe it's not safe if you're young to play with fire, but all you really need to do is burn some wood and you can draw with that. But anyway, if you don't have that, you can just use charcoal. All right. So I'm going to draw Ilana using this charcoal. If you don't have charcoal, you can use graphite, which is just, your regular pencil, or you can use a pen or whatever you have. But I'm going to use charcoal because, one, I can shade a quick area and tone my piece very quickly. So look how I lay it flat on the surface, and I'm going to rub my surface of my paper like so. And go back again this way. And this is just toning my drawing area. It's giving it some shadow, some shade. And what I can do with this is use my eraser to draw. So, whoa, where'd she go? Come back, Ilana. She's fixing her hair. There she is.
Trying to.
No, go ahead.
I was thinking I should put it in a bun.
Yes, if you want to put it in a bun, that would be nice. You want to set up your model, how they might want to be represented. So make sure that they're ready. All right.
I think it's a bit more interesting with a bun.
Yeah, she says it looks more interesting with a bun. So I think that we're going to draw her with the bun. All right. Now, if your model isn't sitting still, you can take a screenshot. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. And now we have a still photo that we can draw from and edit. But our model says that she's going to sit still for me. So we're going to try to draw her from life. And it's great to draw from life because then it trains your eye to see, to translate what you see into what you feel, and then what you can recreate on your canvas. And that's just great practice. If you do this all the time, you'll become a better drawer. And this will help you in a whole number of ways. So drawing from life is the way to go. All right. So I'm going to look at my canvas area and look at the area on my phone. They're similar, but my space here is a little bit wider. Well, I'm just going to shrink this a little, and look, now that's about the same. If you look at this square here, it's the same as this here. So I'm kind of lining up my composition. I'm seeing where I'm framing my subject, so to speak. And I want to frame my subject to fit inside of this area that I have set. So I'm going to draw an invisible line right here, and that line is the top of my canvas. And that way I know where the sides and the bottom are. So I can draw her and fit her right here. So I'm going to start with this invisible line. Her bun is right there at the top. So I'm going to start with the bun, and then I'm going to work my way down to the head. So I'm going to constantly keep checking and making sure that I'm seeing correctly. So I'm going to start with her head. I know her head is an oval. And if you wanted to change your composition, say you wanted to focus more on her face. In fact, yes, could you zoom in maybe a little bit more on your face for us? Feel free to direct your model as to suit your artwork. You need to kind of direct your model in order to get the look that you want. So I want to focus more on the face, so I would like to reframe my subject. So here we go. I'm going to draw my line here and I'm going to start with her face this time, and I'm going to fill up that. Oh, she's changing it. Okay. All right, that's where you want it?
Yes.
All right, let's leave it there, okay?
Closer.
Yes, closer. All right. So you can chit chat with friends, you can listen to music while you draw. And that's also a great thing about having a toned canvas, is if you make a mistake, you can just wipe it out. No problem. You don't even need to erase it. So that sets you up to figure out where to place your composition. It's very forgiving that way. And so I can just kind of smudge out where I want her face to be. And I'm looking at her head. And you guys see that oval there? So here's kind of the shape of her face that I want, this general oval. And I'm going to leave a little bit of room for just a quick outline of where I want the bun of the hair to be, where her ears are. I'm just kind of moving around my paper to see where those major lines are, the major lines of our composition, like here on the neck, the collar of her shirt, of her hood, or yeah, that's her collar. And then her shoulders come out from there. And already I have a nice little portrait being set up. I can go into the face now and expand on that, add a little more detail. All right, so you can see I just started with a quick outline using my charcoal, or you can also tone the canvas with graphite. It's a little harder to erase, not as soft, but you can do it as well. If you have paint, you can also tone your canvas with paint. So anyway, we're just gonna be drawing with charcoal here. I'm gonna be defining little areas of the face. Now, I know where my guidelines are to divide the face, right? If you remember from weeks previous, how we learned the proportions of the face. So we're gonna have that in mind today as well. I'm looking at my subject here, and I'm starting with the eyebrows actually, because those are gonna help me figure out where to relate the next facial features. So those eyebrows are nice and deep and dark. I'm gonna shade in her hair a little bit too, just to start getting some values of light and dark mixed in. And you can see, maybe I should bring my screen brightness up just a little, or does that help? Or does that hurt? Let's see. Okay, I think that's actually good right there. You can see that, yeah. So you can see the little highlights. I'm gonna get in a little bit closer. You can see the highlights on the nose from the light. You can erase out those highlights. So I'm looking over here and I'm seeing the highlight on this side here. So I'm gonna erase out those highlights. And just where I see those light areas, and it helps if you squint like this. If you squint like this, you can see the values easier. It simplifies the light and the dark so that you can see the shadows and the contrast between the shadows and the light easier. So squinting your eyes helps. I need to turn up my screen brightness just a little bit for me. All right. And I'm going to start to erase out some of those highlights here on the chin, on the lips, and on the side of the head. And here's where you kind of can define the shape too, when those ears come in. This side on the left is lighter than on the right. So I'm going to erase this to show that this is where the light's coming from. And that gives a contrast between the left and the right side. So now we have even kind of a little shadow to add some dimension in the background. So now we're gonna get in a little bit more detail, add some of these shadows. If I squint, I see the shadow areas are in the eyes, and I'm just gonna shade the whole eye area just to get that darker tone in. Same with the nose. I'm gonna shade the little, if you squint, you're not looking at details, you're looking at shadow and light, you're looking at value, and that's what you need to focus on. You don't need to focus on little details right now. It's too early for that. Right now, we need to focus on light and dark. And that is the push and pull that we have to kind of figure out in order to make our face look the way we want it. So I'm adding some shadow to the lips. I see you can even go as far as drawing the shadows. If you see where the shadow areas are, and I see that mine are right here on the forehead, I can just go ahead and draw that in and shade it real quick. I can see that it's right here on the right side of the bridge of the nose and underneath the eye, around the nostrils and the nose here. And I'm just kind of going around quick and just seeing, just laying out those shadows. And it's not going to look perfect right off the bat, but it's going to start to get there. You just have to be patient and trust the process. And be grateful for your model for doing such a great job. And this portrait's starting to take shape. I'm still working on little shadow areas. Okay, so I'm looking at the shadow here around the eyelid. And I'm realizing that my eyebrows are a little higher up. I need to go a little bit higher up. Remember, if you squint, see, I'm starting to look at details too much. I need to squint more. And that way I can lay out the structure of the face better. So you have to kind of have a little conversation with yourself, talk with yourself about how things are going, where things should go. And just be loose, be free. Don't worry too much about the likeness, about making it look like the person. Worry more about finding the structure and the value of the face. And now the structure is in the shadows and the highlights, right? I'm looking at the planes of light and dark. And when you start to look at it long enough, you'll start to notice subtle differences in shadow, and you'll start to see more. So don't let yourself look at detail right away. Look at the broad, bigger picture first. Where is your head going? You know, where's that light coming from? And you don't need to worry about individual strands of hair right now. We just need to look at where those eyes are going to go. How deep and dark is the shadow on that eye? And now I have a blending. I have a blending stump here that if you don't have one, you can just roll up a piece of paper and, you know, rub with that. So I'm going to use this to kind of erase and blend some areas. I'm going to pick out, it's going to help me gray, find those shades of gray, blend in some of that black. And you can already see this face is starting to form just from looking at the shadows, right? We're not looking at the eyelashes, individual eyelashes on the eye, right? We're not looking at you know, the nose ring if she has one or whatever. We're just looking at shadow, and we're looking at light. So and that's what drawing and painting really is all about. It's about the relationship of light and dark, you know, of contrasting colors, right? So I'm looking at the shadow on the chin here, on the lips, the top of the bottom lip, and how the shape of her lips, right? How far away is that top lip from the bottom? How big is that lip? How wide? How dark? How light? All right, can you guys see really good? Yes, I think you can see pretty good. So this is coming along nicely. I'm gonna add a little more shadow to this side of the face. blend that in. And with this blending stump, it helps you to shape the face. Remember how last week I was talking about painting in the direction of the shape of the face, right? So if you can just feel how your nose goes up, it goes up, over, and down. Well, do that with your pencil or your blending stump. Go up, over, and down. And mimic the shape of the face. So now I need to go into the eyelid here and pick out some of that highlight in the eyelid and make sure that these are equal. Even though this side on the right is a little bit darker, right? So you have to be patient. You know, we're still kind of establishing where things go right now. We're not really adding any detail right now, not too much, right? We're getting there. We have to work towards detail. Start with the broad in general and then work towards the detail. All right, so now I'm looking at the side of her head here. It's catching a little highlight. I'm looking at the shape of her eyes. And now I'm gonna come back into those eyes soon enough and find the pupils and the eyelashes and all that. But we have to just be patient and wait a little bit longer before we get to that point. So now I'm gonna start to erase here and pick out the outline of her head. Like if you squint your eyes, right, you can see the silhouette really, of the figure. All right. So now I'm gonna erase the highlights on the neck, a little bit more on the face. I see that there's more of a shadow here underneath the neck that I need to shade more. And see how I'm angling, right? The neck, you can think about the neck as a cylinder. And now this side of that cylinder, which, you know, here's a cylinder here. Looks like a tin can. If you think about the neck as a cylinder, this side is going to be shaded more because the light's coming from this angle. Keep squinting your eyes. Don't forget to do that because it's easy to forget and start to get into those dirty details too soon. And you know what they say, the devil is in the details. Well, get rid of that devil and think about the big picture. The big picture is what matters most. All right, so keep looking at your model. And I'm liking where this is going. It's a little off kilter on this side, so I'm gonna shade this in and fix that. Sometimes if you draw from an angle, see how I'm drawing from this side, sometimes I draw from this side. Well, that might throw off your perspective a little bit. So be aware of that, of how you're sitting, how you're facing your work. I just noticed that mine was a little lopsided because I was sitting over here. So you have to just be aware of that. All right, so now I'm going to start to define some of these features a little bit more. Let's see, I need to add a little highlight here. I'm start to go into the eyes. We're coming in on the details now. Thank you, Lana. All right, so I'm gonna shave my eraser a little bit to erase out some of those highlights a little bit more. And now this is great practice, drawing from life. There's really no better exercise to do to get better at drawing. Drawing from your imagination is great, but you can expand on that by drawing from life. All right, so this is looking pretty good. I was gonna maybe try to do a couple of these, one for the front, one for the back of our shadow box. I'm erasing the eyelids away now. I know it might be hard to see at the second. So if your subject, you know, my subject's being really nice because we're doing this live, but your subject might get bored while they're just kind of sitting around. It's okay if they play, you know, like a game, or if they're texting or something like that while you're, well, I guess they can't text, otherwise you won't see them. But it's if they read a book or something while you're drawing them, that's okay, as long as they're sitting still. Or if you can just get a photo, that works too. But drawing from life is really just so much more engaging. All right, so I'm kind of redefining some of these features. I'm starting to work my way more towards the details because my value is more and more defined. I have to erase this little guy. Sorry, I'm left-handed, I gotta get in there. All right. So getting back into our eyebrows a little bit. Still looking for those highlights and shadows, still kind of blending those areas back and forth. Push and pull really is what it's all about. All right, oh, I have this little handy pencil eraser. I forgot about that. That really works. And now I'm gonna add just a little highlight in the eye. And now it's time to kind of erase away a little more highlights. I need to get in there a little bit more with my eraser. Try not to smudge your drawing while you're working on it. Charcoal is very soft, very easy to smudge, especially this vine charcoal here. If you want to prevent it from smudging, you can spray hairspray on it. If you don't have that, you can use, you could order workable fixative, which is archival and it won't yellow. You can get that at most art stores. And if you don't have that, then, well, you can just actually paint a thin layer of glue over this, so that works too. So I need to work on the shading a little more. And just take your time. There's no real rush. Sometimes if you rush, try see how fast you can go. That could be helpful. But most of the time you really just sort of you want to kind of figure out for yourself. You want to take your time to figure out this face, right? And so when you draw someone, you're looking at them and you're learning them, right? So you could interview your subject while you're talking to them. You can get to know them in more than one way. You can get to know them visually, and you can get to know them in a friendship way. So there's lots of good reasons to draw people and to just draw from life in general. You know, when you draw from life, you're learning to see in new ways, and you're learning to how you see your world. And that's valuable because the more you learn about yourself, the more you can help yourself and help others. So take some time to get to know yourself, take some time to draw and see the world in new ways. Always be open to seeing the world in new ways. Okay, so I'm working on her sweater now, and I'm gonna shade in some of those creases. Her face is pretty good. I want to go back a little bit more into her hair. Her hair has a little more liveliness to it, a little more energy in the how it's waving around there in the bun. And I want to indicate that energy here. It's time to shade the top of the head now. Time to shade that bun. There's a little highlight there. Blend it in with my hands. See now, just finishing that bun kind of made it come to life a little. Sometimes just those little features really change the look. The eyebrows make them a little bit thicker here, a little darker. Can you see those values? I'm gonna get in here just a little bit closer so you can see the development. And I have to put it back. All right. So there we go, we're back. And we're wrapping up this drawing here. We're nearing the end of this drawing. I'm looking at the reflected light on this edge of the face, and then you see the shadow, and then how the light from this side is coming here. I want to kind of indicate that by adding a little shadow here. Reflected light is a good thing to look up. Google reflected light, reflective light on objects, because if you can understand how light reflects on objects and how a shadow moves across an object, that will really help you in your drawing, because you'll understand light better. And if you understand light better, then you can understand how it affects the objects that it interacts with. So Google reflected light, or just look here on the side of the face and look at how the very edge has this highlight, and then the shadow begins after this little highlight. I don't know, yeah, you guys can see the little highlight here on the edge of the face, then the shadow, and then it fades into a highlight again over here. And so understanding that reflected light and that shadow will benefit you greatly in your shading and your shadow, your value of your drawing. And if you can understand that, that'll just be great. So I'm adding a little more darker tone, a little more darker value underneath her lips here. The bottom of the chin is shadowed as well. So I'm going to take a blending stump on that. And notice there's not so much reflected light on the bottom of the chin. So I'm just going to shade that in. And that was a little too dark, so I'm going to erase that a little bit. Put that highlight back in. All right, I think this is coming along nicely. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Hope you're having fun joining us on this quarantine art class. This is valuable. When I learned this for the first time, especially like the toning of the canvas, it really did change the way that I drew, and it made it a lot more fun and a lot more easy to kind of just be free and make mistakes, because they're so easy to fix. So charcoal is a very fun, easy, forgiving medium to draw with, and you can get some really cool effects with it. So, all right, so I'm gonna finish this collar, this side of the shirt here. It slopes down. Ooh, I like the way the little strands of hair come down from the back of her head. So I'm gonna draw those on the little swirl here. Hair is really fun. I like to get funky with the hair. So add your little signature touches, right? This is your work of art. Even though you're drawing from life, you don't have to draw exactly what you see, right? You can still use your imagination and add things that might not really be there. And if you have to move things around a little to make it look better, if that's what looks good to you, then well, go ahead and do it. It's your world, right? We live and share this world together, but when you create your own work of art, well, you're creating that world. But it's not for you alone, it's for others too. So so this is good. I'm just working on the fixing little shapes here. Fixing this lip. There we go. A little bit more shadow in the corner. Take my blending stump. And now you can, if you're using a pen or something a little less forgiving, just make sure you have some whiteout. If you have the, if you're using black, well, make sure you have white, and then you can erase. And sometimes in that erasing, that back and forth between the pen, the black of the pen and the white of your paint or whiteout or whatever you have, you'll create those gray tones, which are good. Basically, this drawing is 90% gray with 5% black out area and 5% highlight. All right, and this is a lot of fun. If you're patient enough and you have a model who's patient, then you'll really start to learn a lot really quickly. So I'm kind of just going back and forth here, shading, adding little details, trying to get certain areas nice and dark while I have these contrasting areas of light. So add this highlight here a little bit more strong. The chin. Shape up this jaw a little bit more. You can blend with the eraser as well. The eraser is as much a drawing tool as a pencil. So don't be ashamed or afraid to use it. Get to know all your tools, It's like a ninja. The more weapons you have in your belt, the stronger you'll be. So try to get your hands on or experiment with as many types of art materials as you can, just to expose yourself to new methods of working and creating. You know, in that you'll discover what you really love to do, and you'll really find a way to express yourself that resonates with you. But the foundation of all art is drawing. So I think you need to be able to draw first, and that will help you greatly in every aspect of any artistic endeavor. Any single artistic endeavor you can think of, you'll need some design or drawing experience or knowledge. And the more you have, well, the more influence you can have over your life and, you know, the work that you create. All right, so I'm adding a few highlights here in the hair so that it stands out a little more. We're nearing the end of this drawing. Let's see what time we have. It's 4:41, so we have 15 minutes left. And with that time, I can start one more of these drawings. But before I do, I'm going to cut this one out and place it in my makeshift shadow box frame. So I'm adding the little reflected light on the corner of the head here, fixing up the little eyebrows here and there. Need a little more shadow in those eyes. Nice big eyes. All right, a little more shadow on this side of the neck. Add a little highlight, and I think you might have to call it. Get the collar. A few more strands of hair. Not worried too much about the ears because the hair's covering it and they're in shadow. All right, a little more shadow over here. And I'm gonna go ahead and add a little shadow behind her and blend that with my finger. Fade it up. Add a little highlight. Sometimes if you add maybe a little eraser highlight around the head, gives it a little glow. Just kind of erase behind them. And now I could spend a lot longer time working on shadows and values, but I wanted to try to get to one more piece before we go. So I'm going to wrap this one up real quick. And I'm blanking it. Off the excess there. So you see how I just basically colored a little swatch of black, and then I took my stump and then I can just blend it out from there. And that's a really helpful way to add shadow and value. All right, so we're almost done here. Doing such a great job, Lana. Thank you. About 15 minutes left. So this is a nice little hour portrait. You know, if you don't have as much time, like I said, take a picture. It lasts longer. But it's more beneficial to draw from life. So if you can, do it. I'm gonna add a little shadow here. I'm gonna make this side darker just to make it more contrasting. And now these highlights will stand out a little bit more in the shirt. There, I like that. Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna add a little wisps of hair with this guy. Do a little outline. And if you don't like them, well, you can just take them out. That's cool. Maybe just a few lines like that, just because. Little movement. All right, nice. So I'm gonna cut it out, literally. And it helps if you have a straight edge. I'm just gonna freehand it. I have a pretty steady hand. All right. Now I'm going to add some glue to my box. You don't need a lot. A little glue will do. And be careful with it because remember it's pretty fragile at this point, or either that or it's wet if you're using paint. Anyway, we just slap it on there, perfect fit. Bada bing, bada boom. Now we have our own little frame for our portrait. Get a little bit closer so you can see. All right. Well, that was fun. We have this whole other side that we can do a whole nother portrait with. So how much time do we have left? We have 12 minutes. So I think we can do another one in 12 minutes. What's that? Oh, she's trying to go. All right, let me do one more. You're doing such a great job. God bless you. All right, let's do this real quick. We're gonna do this one with food coloring. And I'm gonna start with, we're gonna do it real quick. I'm gonna start with yellow. And see how I just squirted it in a circle. Sometimes it's okay just to forget the rules. And do what you feel is good. That was a little too much. So I'm gonna wipe out the head here with a napkin. Such a beautiful smile. All right, so when I'm wiping it out, I'm wiping out the shape of the head. All right, now I'm gonna take some red, but I'm gonna put this in my palette. I wanna control it a little bit more. And I got some water on my brush. So I'm gonna squint my eyes. And again, I'm gonna look at my circle here. And look at those shadows. I'm going to start with the eyes. The eyes are here, so just kind of be careful there. And there's one eye. And I'm just looking at the shape and the outline of that eye. And I'm going to look at the other one. It's about over here. Remember, you want to imagine that invisible line, that invisible guideline of to guide our proportions. So I'm thinking of this line here to keep the eyes on the same level. Nice eyelashes there. All right, I'm looking at the eyelid here and here, the eyebrow, how it curves up and over the eye. The shape of the eyebrow is very important. The hair in general is a really important thing to focus on because that's really where a lot of the person's personality is. All right, so now I'm going to come down here. Remember the eye line and the nose line? I'm imagining the nose line and I'm looking at her nostrils. And I'm just going to draw the nostrils. Just if you squint, remember you have to squint. Just look at her nostrils and indicate those with just a few marks, right? Pretty simple. A little bit more food coloring. And her head is slightly at an angle, which is okay. So that nostril is going to be a slight angle as well. Okay, so there's a nostril coming down, following the outline of the face, how it curves down. I look at her lips, and remember the eye line, the nose line, and the lip line are all going to be, here's the middle, but I have to go up a little bit for the top lip. And now I'm going to draw, look at where her lip ends, just a little bit west of her nose, just a little bit. Remember, it lines up with the eye, the middle. So this one lines up with the middle of the eye too. So I know, draw a straight line down from her eye to the mouth line, and boom, that's where the corner of her mouth is going to be. So we know we can draw that lip coming down there. So that's her top lip. The top lip always has a little bit more shadow. And she's smiling, so it creases up in the corners. Wonderful smile. And now I'm going to add a little bit more shadow here in the eyes. You can see that because the paper is wet, it's bleeding a little bit, but I don't mind that. I like when the material expresses itself, you know, so that because it's wet, it spreads, but I like the look, you know. Sometimes you have to just embrace the nature of the material, or if you consider it a mistake, embrace the mistake. All right, so now I'm going to come here and finish up her chin. How are we doing on time? We're doing good. All right, this one's coming along nice. My friend is hitting me up. What up, Ben? Shout out to Ben. All right, so you know the top of the ear starts on the eye line, and the bottom of the ear goes to the nose line. I'm gonna get my blue ready because I'm gonna use that next. You only need a little bit of food coloring. A little bit of food coloring really does go a long way. All right, so I like the way her hair's flipping up over here, so I'm gonna leave that light. I like that look, that's cool. So I'm just gonna kind of indicate that right here, and then the rest of that, I'm gonna shade her hair blue. I think a blue would be nice on this particular canvas. I like the blonde of the hair going up kind of crazy like that and around. This one's going off the canvas a little bit, but that's all right. I like that wild hair there, coming down like this. You know what they say, big hair, big mind. We got some big hair going on here. All right. So shading this head a little bit more. I'll come in there with the blue a little bit later. We don't need to spend so much time figuring out the hair at the moment. I'm going to come down to the neck, which is, if you spatially relate things, you can see the corner of the mouth and the edge of the neck line up. And I'm going over here. She has a little dimple. And come down with the neck and the collar. Wow, she looks like Audrey Hepburn or something right now. All right. Okay. Let's shut the collar. Now I'm going to come in with the blue. And now that, what does blue and red make? Purple. So let's see if we can make a nice little purple. Ooh, that's cool how it's spreading. Now I want to maybe control it a little bit more, so I'm not going to make it any more wet than it is now, because if it gets any more wet, it'll start to really run. But she's getting tired. Okay, this is looking good. Adding the shadow. Remember to squint your eyes. Really squint your eyes if you really want to simplify that drawing. If you really want to see, even though you're seeing less clearly, you're seeing the values more clearly. So that's what you want to do. You want to see your values clearly to separate the lights from the darks, because then you're not focused on making it look so much like the person. It just becomes that person. Right? So get those eyebrows a little bit thicker. All right, now we got to work on the hair. We're coming up on our time here. And I hope you guys are really having as much fun as me. I always really enjoy these live sessions. I just like going live with you guys and getting creative. And experimenting and trying new things. Like, this is really a fun opportunity to, just the quarantine in general is a fun opportunity to get your hands on something new, try some new things, you know, really take the time to figure out what it is that you enjoy doing with your time, because now we are blessed with time. So let's use it wisely. All right. So got about a minute left. I'm going to wrap this up and glue it onto the other side. Can you move your hand 1 second? Thank you. All right, so let's come down here. I need to shade it a little more. That means I need a bigger brush. Where's my bigger brush? Oh, here it is. So I'm going to add some water. That will thin the paint. The more water you add to the food coloring, the thinner it will get. Just like watercolor. So I'm going to add some shadow here. Ooh. unexpected mark, but I'm gonna go with it because it's kind of there already. So let's see what I do here. Shadow on this side, around here. And all right, so we're about done. I'm just gonna wrap this up right now. All right, so that's interesting. I want to do this more because maybe you just need to spend a little bit more time with it to make it look the way I want to. You know what I would do is I'm gonna add like some highlights. So we're just gonna go a couple more minutes here. I'm gonna add some glue highlights because I've been enjoying that, what the glue does and how it interacts with the paint. And when it dries, it does dry a little more clear, but it catches the reflection of the light to make it a little bit more bright. And now, I know this isn't an exact likeness, but it is a work of art. And that's what matters most, right? And sometimes in experimenting, and maybe it's not the most accurate representation of the person, but maybe it's the essence of the person mixed with a little bit of you. All right, so I'm going to finish this outline here. All right, everybody, thanks for joining in. I hope you're having fun along with me here, these quarantine art lessons. I'm going to add some little bits of hair here. Wrapping it up now. I'm going to spread that glue just ever so much. Cool. Well, I like it. All right, so I'm going to cut it out real quick before we go. I'm going to cut it out, paste it up in my makeshift frame. All right, so careful because it's wet. When it's wet, it's more likely to tear than cut. Like we just had a little tear there, a little tear scare, but we're good. It's drier along the outer edges where I did not paint. All right, almost done here. Oops. Okay. No. All right, here's the glue, and then we're through. It's a little snug, but we'll get her in there. All right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for following along. Here we have our nice little portrait. One side and the other. Abstract and representational. All right. Had a lot of fun today, you guys. Thanks for joining us. Join in next week and every week, Wednesdays at 4 for our quarantine art lessons. Say thank you, Lana.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.